What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of What's the Word, your home for all things sports. I'm your host, Sam Casillas, and let's jump right into all the buzz surrounding NFL free agency. So, free agency opened up this week on Monday, and some of these teams wasted zero time picking up some new guys. There were quite a few big names in free agency. So today in this video, I'm going to go over 4 of the biggest free agents and the new threads that they're going to be rocking, as well as my projection for what the Bears are going to do with the number 1 pick in this NFL draft upcoming year. So the first person I'm going to start off with is Mr. Derrick Henry. I mean, this was arguably the most anticipated decision of all offseason. I mean, this is a guy who is one of the top running backs in the league, and let me just say right off the bat, I am super excited to see what he is going to do in Baltimore. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to show up, and I think he's going to make an instant impact from day one. I mean, let's take a little bit of backtrack with Derrick Henry on just what he's done in his 8 seasons with Tennessee. This is a guy who's finished with the most yards and the most touchdowns by a running back in his career twice. I mean, 2021 Offensive Player of the Year. This is a guy who is a 4-time Pro Bowler. So just those accolades alone, and not to mention, I mean, this is the guy who's been single-handedly responsible for keeping the Titans somewhat relevant the last few seasons. I mean, you see his highlights, you see him stiff-arming people, blowing guys off 90-yard runs. So this is a guy who is an absolute gamer, and, I think he's going to make an instant impact here on this Baltimore team. Like I mentioned, he was a workhorse with Tennessee, but, moving to a more dynamic offense, I think that's going to change so much. Not to say that he's not going to be as productive. I'm just saying that the workload is not going to be as much as he's used to in Tennessee. Now being in the backfield with Lamar Jackson, I mean, come on, that duo, just look at that duo. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the same backfield. I mean, I think this is going to be the missing piece that Baltimore really needed. They haven't really had a running back, they haven't had a running back rush for over 1,000 yards in a season since 2014. So just let that sink in. I'm going to say that again. The Baltimore Ravens have not had a running back rush for over 1,000 yards in a season since 2014. And then you bring someone like Derrick Henry, and this is a guy who's been able to do that 5 times in his career, and he's done it for the last 2 seasons. So, I mean, this is a guy that is really going to fill the void that the Baltimore Ravens are looking for a team that likes to run the ball as much as they do. I think this is the guy that they want to go with. And, I mean, people are still questioning, there's a lot of talk going around just how much Derrick Henry has left in the tank. I mean, he's led the NFL in carries the last 2 seasons, but I think, with this change of scenery in Baltimore, he doesn't have to be the team's main source of offense like he was in Tennessee. So I think he's still going to have, that high workload, but just it's going to look a little bit different. He's not going to have to do as much. He's still going to be really productive, but I think he's still going to be able to cross that 1,000-yard mark and then some, hopefully, with this type of offense that the Ravens got going. And, I mean, although the run game is really sort of the bread and butter for that Baltimore offense, we know they like to run a lot of QB power, a lot of design runs with Lamar Jackson. So now that's just really going to take the load off of Derrick Henry. He's not going to have to be the main source of offense like he was in Tennessee. And I think that's going to benefit him so much. I think it's going to allow him to do his thing and just not have that pressure on him. I mean, he had that pressure on him in Tennessee, and he delivered absolutely. But I think with Baltimore, that more dynamic offense, the field's going to be way more spread out. And I think, that's going to be really beneficial for Derrick Henry. That offensive line, one of the best in the leagues in the run game. So, I mean, I think if you're Derrick Henry, you're kind of, rubbing your hands, licking your lips a little bit because you're like, man, I'm about to get some action. You're like, this team is kind of a jackpot for me. I mean, this is a team who is a contender. The Titans have made the playoffs in the last few years, but I mean, this is a team who is a legit contender. And I think, Baltimore really, really, really hit the jackpot with Derrick Henry. And I think this makes them a lot scarier in that AFC. It's kind of, who's fighting to dethrone the Chiefs? Because right now that the Chiefs, they're in a league of their own. But I think, Baltimore is not far off. And I think those are the two really real juggernauts in the AFC. The two big dogs in the AFC right now heading into the season. So I think this pickup for the Baltimore Ravens was huge. And I just got to say, I am so excited to see Mr. Derrick Henry in that Baltimore purple. I think he's going to make an instant impact. And I think he really was the missing link that this Baltimore squad needed. A powerful runner. He is an all-around dog, tremendous athlete, and it's only going to make the Ravens better. So I'm really excited to see, what that option game is going to be looking like with him and Lamar back there. It's going to be some pretty nasty stuff. You're going to see some cool stuff next season. So all this, the Ravens are really trying to get back in the mix. They came up short in the AFC Championship game last year. they're trying to get back in the mix, So I think this signing is really big for them. This pickup is really big for them. And I see Derrick Henry as a guy, coming in and really making an instant impact. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in Baltimore. I'm so happy that he got out of Tennessee because, like I mentioned, he was doing it all for them. He was keeping them on the map. And now I'm excited to see him in the backfield with MVP, Mr. Lamar Jackson. So really excited for Derrick Henry. And I think he's going to make an instant impact with Baltimore. But let's move on to the next running back, arguably just as good of a running back with just as much buzz, Mr. Saquon Barkley. And although he's coming off a little bit of a down year, he's dealt with his fair share of injuries, and he's missed at least 3 games in 4 out of the last 5 seasons. So this is a guy who's had his fair share of injuries. Not to mention he's coming off of a torn ACL, but he has torn his ACL before. So this is a guy, who has constantly been injured, but he's still producing when he's on the field. I'm really excited to see him, with this new change of scenery, a fresh start for him to just kind of do what he does. This is a guy, he is a home run threat every single time he touches the ball, and that's what the Eagles need, in my opinion. They've had some good running backs as of late, but, they've been top 8 in rushing yards the last 2 seasons, so I think with Saquon, this is the explosiveness that they need. Saquon's a guy who's had more 30-plus yard runs in his career than all the Eagles running backs combined during that span, so Saquon's a guy who joined the league in 2018, already one of the most explosive runners, and that doesn't lie. More 30-plus yard runs in his career, so from 2018 to now, than all the Eagles running backs combined in that span. So, this guy is a dog. This is a guy who can do it all. He can run, he can catch passes. He is tremendous in pass protection and blocking. So, he really can do it all. He's a do-it-all guy, and I think, he's really going to benefit him, this change of scenery in Philadelphia. And, the Eagles have one of, if not the best offensive lines in football, even, after losing Jason Kelce to retirement. I think that's going to, sting him a little bit, but I think, they still have enough pieces to fill that hole. But, Saquon is going to enjoy having those holes made for him. He's going to enjoy getting the rock a lot. And, the Giants have had their struggles with offensive line, and I think that's really been one of their weakest points in Saquon's time there. So, I think, Barkley is super excited to be in that backfield. And, I kind of do feel a little bit bad for him. I feel for him. He said he wanted to retire a Giant. But, at the end of the day, you guys got to remember that, the NFL is a business. And, these teams, they want to win. And they want to win now. So, they'll do whatever it takes to get the guy in that is going to get them to that win. And, the Giants just didn't see the same. So, I do feel for Saquon. He did say he wanted to retire a Giant. We know how much that meant to him. He loves the city of New York. But, hey, now this gives him an opportunity to torch the Giants twice a year. So moving over in the division, they're in the same division, so he'll surely get his licks at the Giants. And, I'm just hoping for the best. I'm hoping he goes off and, gives them a little taste of what they're missing. But I'm really excited to see Saquon back there with this offensive line with Jalen Hurts. Those are 2 guys. I'm sure you guys have all seen the videos throughout social media, or you've heard the broadcasters on TV, but those are 2 guys that both squat 600 pounds plus. You've seen the videos of them in college. I'm sure they're going up now. But, this is a strong backfield. This is a backfield similar to the Ravens. This is a backfield duo that can now run. The Eagles like to do a lot of design runs with Jalen Hurts, and I think now with Saquon, it's going to look so much better, and I think they're going to do a lot more option game. I think they're going to do a lot more design runs, but I'm really excited to see those 2 in the backfield. It is going to be one strong backfield, and those Eagles like to do that tush push. So with Saquon Barkley in that tush push, I think they're going to get an extra few yards. I think the league is going to complain a little bit more that they're too good at the tush push, but when you got those guys in the backfield, it makes it that much easier. But I'm really excited to see what Saquon is going to do in Philly. He's got a bad taste in his mouth. I think he took it really well. You can tell he was hurt when he got dealed out to Philly, but at the end of the day, he does know it's a business, and although it hurts, he still has that bad taste in his mouth. But he's going to go about it, and he's really going to look for the opportunity to torch the Giants. But I'm really looking forward to see what Saquon does in his time in Philadelphia. Some could say he had a little bit of a wasted career so far in New York, but I'm really happy that he got out of there and just gets to start fresh. Philadelphia is a great place to do that. One of the best O-lines, one of the best QBs in the league. So I'm excited to see how everything's going to work out for Saquon, and I think he's going to have a tremendous season in Philadelphia. And that brings us to our first QB of free agency that I'm going to be talking about is Kirk Cousins. Yes, Mr. Kirk O'Chains, Kirk Cousins. He is in the A, no longer in the Twin Cities. So Mr. Kirk Cousins left the Minnesota Vikings, is now going to be joining the Atlanta Falcons for this upcoming season. And this is a signing, that I'm still having some mixed feelings about. I mean, this is definitely a huge upgrade in the QB room for the Atlanta Falcons. Don't get me wrong. This is a team who's been trying to fill that QB role ever since Matt Ryan left. And, I mean, they haven't really been able to do that. They've tried it with Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke. And, all three of those guys have shown some flashes of greatness and some flashes of being able to get the job done. But, none of them have really been consistent enough to do so. So I think, Kirk Cousins is Mr. Consistent. He's a guy who gets the job done. And I think, it's going to be good for him to be in this new environment, in these new threads. And I mean, I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be able to get it done and bring some buzz back to the A. Like I said, they haven't really had much going for them since that tough loss. I know if you're a Falcons fan, cover your ears, but since that loss to the Patriots, that terrible, tragic Super Bowl loss to the Patriots in 2017, the Falcons really just haven't had much going for them. So I think Kirk is a guy who wants to make an instant impact and bring some buzz back to Atlanta, make them relevant again, and get them back in the playoff position. But one thing I do want to bring up is, let's not forget that Kirk Cousins is a guy who tore his Achilles just 4.5 months ago. So this is a guy who's still in the recovery process, taking it day by day. He has said that he's feeling better. He's feeling like he's going to be ready to go. But, I mean, he says he can't even roll out of the pocket. So if it came down to that right now, he wouldn't be ready to go. But, I mean, I think he'll be good to go in time for camp for sure, for preseason. But, I mean, I'm still really, not sure if, that's going to be good for them with him under center. I'm really rooting for him, but just still really iffy on just what he's going to be able to do. I mean, they do have some young talent around him in the form of Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and even Kyle Pitts. I know, Kirk Cousins likes to throw to those tight ends a lot. So I'm just really excited to see what he's going to do with this new change of scenery. But one thing I really do want to point out, I mean, all eyes are going to be on Kirk Cousins. This is a guy, I think Atlanta really put all their chips in on Kirk Cousins. And this is a guy who's only had one career playoff win, and he's been in the league for 12 seasons. So that one win came in 2020. So this is a guy, he's a great quarterback, but, he really doesn't have anything to show for it. So I think Atlanta, they know that. They took a chance, and, they went all in on him. And I like that, because I think this change of scenery could do Kirk Cousins justice. But, a lot of eyes, are going to be on Atlanta. And, hopefully Kirk can do the job and he can lead Atlanta, give some more buzz around him and lead them to the playoffs. They got to understand, it might not be instant. It might not be, Super Bowl year one. But, if Kirk and the Falcons can show improvement in year one, I think it's going to be a good sign looking forward for that team. But, I mean, that is a team that is hungry. They're desperate for winning. I mean, hasn't been going their way since 2017, really. So this is a team that wants to get back in the mix. Hopefully Kirk Cousins can be that guy for them. But, I mean, this is a guy, we'll see how he keeps attacking that rehab, and we'll see if he can get out there, how he's looking in training camp. But I'm really excited. Kirk was doing great in Minnesota. It was really unfortunate that he tore his Achilles. I mean, it was a big contract year. There was a lot of stuff up in the air whether or not, Kirk Cousins was going to get paid. Was he going to go to another team? That injury did play a really big part. And, he did get picked up by the Falcons. So, I mean, I'm excited for Kirk. I mean, I already know he's gonna do his thing. He's Mr. Consistent, so let's see if he can do it with some new pieces around him. But I like that signing for the Falcons. I mean, like I said, a huge upgrade already in the quarterback room, and that guy hasn't even played a single snap for them. So I'm excited to see what he's gonna do in Atlanta. But that's gonna take me to the last big name of this free agency, Mr. Let's Ride, Russell Wilson. I mean, this was by far, in my opinion, the steal of the offseason. And the Pittsburgh Steelers really, really, really hit the jackpot. This pickup, he was a very, very, very much needed QB upgrade. I mean, and they got him for a steal. Let's not forget to mention that. Just $1.2 million the Steelers are paying for him. Let's not forget to mention that the Broncos are still paying the remaining $38 million of Russ's contract. So, I mean, the Steelers got a legitimate QB upgrade for a tremendous price of only $1 million. So, I really like that signing. I mean, this is slight robbery, what Russ is doing and what the Steelers are doing. But I think if you're Pittsburgh, you're just going to, take your W and you're going to move on, keep your head down. And, I mean, not forget, this team also picked up Justin Fields too. So this team went from Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. So already a tremendous upgrade in that QB room for this team. And I mean, look at the numbers. Last season, Russell Wilson had 26 touchdowns to Kenny Pickett's 6. And I mean, 1,000 more passing yards than Pickett. Not to mention Wilson's tremendous ability to use his legs, improvise, and, get mobile if he needs to. So the numbers surely don't lie. This is a guy, let's not forget, he's a Super Bowl champion with Seattle. And I mean, he's kind of been really the blame guy for what happened in Denver. I think, he really doesn't deserve all the slander. What happened in Denver wasn't his fault. I mean, he went out there, he still put up numbers, but I think the team was just really expecting too much out of him. They didn't really put too many guys around him to succeed. They kind of just said, hey, here, we got Russ, make it work. But they didn't give him the pieces to make it work. So I'm excited. I'm happy that Russ got out of there. I mean, it was a really, really iffy situation. But I think this change of scenery and this fresh start almost for Russ is going to be really, really, really beneficial for him. And, what's huge about that is that getting Russ for that good of a price is now the Steelers, have some extra money to look elsewhere. And I think what's really going to be key for them is signing or drafting another wide receiver to go along with George Pickens and their great tight end, Pat Freiermuth. But I think, if they really want to compete and they want to give Russ the best opportunity, I think they gotta draft somebody, or they gotta trade up for a receiver and use some of that money they got with Russ to make that happen. And they currently have the 20th pick in the draft, and this is a really QB heavy draft class. A lot of teams who have the early picks, they've made it very clear that they need a quarterback. So I'm feeling pretty sure that the Steelers are going to be able to get a pretty good receiver fall down in 20, and I think they're going to go ahead and take him. But like I said, they do have that money if they want to go sign a big wide receiver, or trade for somebody. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. But all those 4 QBs are going to be rocking some new threads and a fresh start for all of them. So I mean, you can't really hate that. Every opportunity, it's a new opportunity. So I think these guys are just going to go make the most of it. But I'm really looking forward to see what they're going to do in their new threads, and how they're going to ball out and make an impact for these teams on day one. But enough of that. Let's leave free agency in the rear window. Let's talk about the NFL draft upcoming and what is going to happen with the first pick. And let me just say, Caleb Williams, you are a Chicago Bear, my friend, Mr. Caleb Williams. I mean, there was a lot of buzz around what the Bears were going to do regarding this number 1 pick. I mean, a lot of people were questioning, if they were going to keep Fields or are they going to sign Williams. What were they going to do? There was so much in the air. But, I mean, now that they have officially parted ways with Justin Fields, I mean, it is very, very, very much clear what they intend to do with that number 1 pick. Looks like Caleb Williams is headed to the Chi-Town. They added some offensive firepower around them in the form of Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift. So I mean, that is huge. It looks like they've been really busy this offseason. And the biggest question was who was going to be under center for the Chicago Bears. We mentioned they've added those pieces around them, but now they got rid of Justin Fields, and it is very clear who they are going to roll with. And if I'm being honest, I think this decision is really best for both parties. And when I say both parties, I mean Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. I mean, things just really didn't work out between the two of them. And, in no way is, that me putting the blame on Justin Fields. I mean, Justin Fields did absolutely everything he could with what he had. I mean, the supporting cast just wasn't always there. They had some coaching issues. They had some personnel issues. They had a lot of injuries in his time there with Chicago. So, I mean, I think this new change of scenery is really going to be beneficial for both teams. And, really the only person the organization gave them was DJ Moore. And I mean, seems like they didn't make as much of an effort as they're making for Williams, to build a cast around him. They only gave Justin Fields DJ Moore. And I mean, that's not enough if you ask me. So I like what they're doing. I like that they're trying to build around Williams. And I mean, Fields has definitely shown a lot of improvement in his years in the league with the Bears. And, I think taking a step back and being a backup behind Russell Wilson is really going to benefit him. And I mean, he still has so much to learn, but like I said, he has been improving. But I think sitting behind, a seasoned vet like Russell Wilson is really only going to make Justin Fields better. I know it stings, being a first-round draft pick, being the guy in Chicago starting right off the bat to riding the bench, but I think it really could be beneficial. And I mean, the Bears seem like they are absolutely all ready to go all in on Williams, which is something I'm glad. I mean, there's so much pressure and expectations for these QBs that are taking number 1. I mean, people expect them to, just come to a team and make an instant impact right off the bat. But these teams got to understand that you got to build around these young guys. And I think the Bears are doing just that. Like I mentioned, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift on that offensive side of the ball. And, they're already making an effort to give Williams some weapons. And that's just something they didn't do with Justin Fields. So I'm starting to wonder if, maybe the Chicago Bears did learn their lesson. And maybe, they're not trying to make the same mistake they did with Justin Fields. The front office said that they wanted to do right by Justin Fields, and they wanted to send him off the right way. But I mean, I'm glad they're getting a fresh start, and I'm glad that both parties just decided, hey, this wasn't it. This wasn't working. Let's go back to the drawing board. Justin Fields, we wish you all the best, but we have our eyes on the prize. We want to win, and the Bears, they really want to win. I think if any team wants to win more, it's the Bears. So this is a team who's been hungry. They haven't had much going for them in the past years. So, I mean, hopefully Williams can make an instant impact. I mean, it's looking like, he's going to have some good weapons around for him. But I think the Bears just really, really, really did not want to make the same mistake with Williams that they did with Justin Fields. And, I mean, with that being said, I think, this draft is going to be great. But I think, Caleb Williams, that decision just made it 1,000 times easier. I mean, with Justin Fields out of the mix, it's very clear, that the Bears are going to go all in on Williams. They don't want them splitting the reps in practice. They want Williams to develop and, be ready to go come preseason and come opening week. So I'm really excited to see what the Bears do with the number 1 pick. I think it's pretty set in stone that they're going to take Caleb Williams. I mean, every mock draft says that, Williams is undeniably going number 1. And I think if the Bears don't take him, I think we got to start questioning what the Bears are thinking over there in that front office. But I think it's looking pretty clear that the decision is going to be Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear. So that's going to do it for this episode of What's the Word. Thank you all so much for your tremendous support. We'll see you all next week. And let me know in the comments who you're most excited to see in these new threads for this upcoming season. We got a lot of changes going around. And as free agency continues to pick up in the next few episodes, we'll continue to bring up some big names. But as always, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment, and like, share, and subscribe. So thank you, everyone. I'm Sam Casillas, and we will see you next time on What's the Word.